Welcome to the Shootin' Show. Stand by for shots fired.
Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of the Shootin' Show, and welcome to today's program. Tell you what, friends, it's a little windy out here today. It's a little bit nippy. Of course, it's February. Even here in northwest Louisiana, it does get a little cool. And please overlook the wind noise. We're probably going to have some through our sound system, but it has been such a fabulous day to be outside doing anything. And of course, on a nice day like today, and here comes the wind, it has been so much fun on such a beautiful day. It just makes you glad to be alive. I tell you what, makes you proud to be an American. You know, there's probably a song about that somewhere. Anyway, we're so glad to have you. We have a great show for you. We're going to touch on a number of different things. And you know, friends, do not get passive about our victory this past fall, because now that we've got the attention of some of these politicians and we've installed a good number of new and decent ones, now's the time to really get hot after regaining some of our rights. That's, you know, we don't want to lose any more rights. We want some back. So we need to do that, and we'll be talking about that later on in the program. The judge has some really great things to say about that. Anyway, well, let's get another Shootin' Show underway. Let's take our Mitchell high standard pump shotgun, and this is really a neat gun. We met Don Mitchell. I think some of you may have seen him a couple of weeks ago at our during our SHOT Show feature, and he's a heck of a nice guy. Of course, Don was president of High Standard back years ago, and he has come along to build and market a number of the High Standard designs. I tell you what, friends, I'm impressed. So let's start today's program with this Mitchell High Standard. And let's give it a little run through here briefly. Yeah, just having a little fun. Friends, again, let me ask you, please bear with our wind noise, because we'll periodically be having that today. I tell you what, I really didn't know much about these guns. We certainly enjoyed our talk with Don Mitchell at the SHOT Show, and he told us some things, and I'll tell you what, this is an impressive piece of equipment. It shoots about as fast, I think, as a pump shotgun, certainly as fast as I can manipulate a pump shotgun, which is certainly average, maybe a little above average. But these are very nicely made guns. Now, when you see this Mitchell High Standard, those of you who are familiar with the original High Standard shotguns, well, High Standard really made a very nice lineup of guns years ago. And the original company has been out of business for a number of years now. But their guns today, you'll occasionally find them at gun shows or at gun shops that are used, and they still command a very fine price, because by and large, now they made some lesser expensive guns, but they made some of the finest 22 semi-automatics that anyone has ever made, and they made some other very fine guns, and this shotgun was one of them. It's one of the neat things about it, and of course Don showed us this at the program, but when the gun is cocked, now watch, it's in the locked position, and this is one of the things they use for quality control. You can press the release down here and watch this slide. See, it'll come all the way open. It's that slick. Now then, it does not rattle excessively. Of course, any of them are going to have a little noise, but it is not a clunky or a ratchety type sound. It's just real crisp and slick, and that impresses me. These guns are made in the Philippines, and tell you the truth, I didn't know that the Filipinos even had any sort of gun manufacturing capability. Didn't know. You know, personally, I don't know that much about the Philippines, and this is something that, if this is an indication of the quality of firearms that those folks can put together, well, I tell you what, they do a nice job. This gun has an 18¼ inch barrel. It is legal. It has to be, a shotgun has to have at least an 18-inch barrel, as I understand the law, to be legal. It will hold 6 rounds in the magazine. And I tell you, this is a very nice handling package as compared to our Remington 870, which you know is one of my very favorite guns of any type of all time. It's not quite as large. The barrel on this particular model, this is a roughly 20-inch barrel, and the Mitchell gun does not have a recoil pad. Now, that's going to be the first thing that most of us are going to put on our shotguns, but if I were just going to use a gun with lower powered loads for home defense, something like that, I wouldn't worry about it. But for out shooting all day, this has a hard plastic with somewhat sharp edges on it, and that would be the first thing I would do if this gun were mine. We do appreciate the good folks at Britain's loaning us this Mitchell shotgun for testing. This gun has a very nice engine-turned steel bolt. In fact, it is all steel, and another thing I like, the magazine follower is made out of metal. Now, some manufacturers, including Remington, are using plastic followers in that magazine tube, and I'm not sure. Probably for most applications, plastic's okay, but if you're going to leave one loaded for long periods of time, as most of us do, we've got these sorts of guns, and a lot of us do leave them loaded, at least magazine loaded. I much prefer that metal piece there. I've heard some reports of the plastic followers breaking up or hanging, whatever, so that is another good feature. This is an extremely well thought out gun. In fact, let's take a closer look at it and show you some of the finer points. Well, friends, looking, you have a very nicely made slide here, or slide grip, or whatever you want to call it. Very deep grooves. Even if your hands were sweaty, I think you could still hold on to it. You have an action bar on this side, and again one on this side for a non-binding type situation. The machine surfaces are very nicely done. Here's your slide release, and again, that action is so slick. Watch when I press that release. You know, that action will come open. It is impressive. You have a nice large port here for loading the gun. There's that metal follower I was talking about. That certainly impresses me. Your safety's in front of the trigger guard right here. A push type safety, as most of us are used to. And this engine turn bolt here is a very nice touch. You have a good solid extractor here. Of course, this is the shell carrier as it works. A very nicely made gun. The wood is done real pretty. Here's a nice touch. You've got a different piece of wood here that's attached to the bottom of the pistol grip on the stock, but a very well thought out. These grooves here are sighting aid. Very nicely done shotgun. You know, friends, the pump shotgun, as if you put all the equation of everything that we had that goes bang, the 12 gauge pump shotgun is probably the most complete single weapon, and it'll do literally everything pretty darn well. For defense, most of us like handguns, and I certainly carry a handgun most of the time, and this Colt government model is one of my favorites, or this 41 Magnum or whatever else I happen to have. But to defend my home, if there's a problem outside at night here on the farm, well, I go out with one of these shotguns if I think I'm going to have to face anything, because literally a shotgun is the ultimate defensive weapon. Now, there's some applications in your home, and we've talked about this before, your problem with length and getting around, certainly in a vehicle, where a handgun has many more advantages. But as far as the ultimate no-holds-barred, do-everything weapons system, well, certainly your 12 gauge shotgun, and I prefer a pump because, one, you have the reliability regardless of what kind of ammunition you may be shooting, and they're very simply manipulated. And of course, you can leave the magazine tube loaded on a pump shotgun if you so desire, and can do it safely in your home, and leave the chamber empty. So if the gun is dropped, and you can check it very easily and be sure that chamber is empty, and leave the rounds in the magazine alone. This Mitchell, heck of a nice package. Hey, I'm impressed. This is the first one that I have really had the opportunity to shoot and handle, and it does handle very nicely. It's a reasonable package for someone, a somewhat larger person like myself, but then a smaller person, due to the dimensions of the gun, they're just not going to have any trouble with it. It is very simple. It appears to be very ruggedly made. On durability, well, I don't know. I don't know anybody who shot one of these things for a long time, but honestly, the metal work and all looks real good, and my impression is that they would be very dependable and durable for a lot of shooting. That's certainly my impression. It is an all-steel action, and I like that. There are a lot of very fine alloy receivers and all out there, but you do have an extra measure of strength and possibly durability with the all-steel action, and that's open for debate, and most of us are not going to shoot our shotguns enough to wear them out anyway. But I don't think that the people in Congress, some of these folks that wanted to take away our guns this past year, really understood. One, they didn't know the difference between an assault rifle and a semi-automatic. which all of us have had for many years. A lot of us have, and they've certainly been available to the public since around 1900, even before, and they really didn't understand. But here, in fact, is maybe the ultimate up close and personal, all around assault or whatever else type gun that anyone could want. By definition, and let me clear this up now, by definition, an assault weapon is one with selective fire that will fire fully automatic. That means hold the trigger down, it continues to shoot until you move your trigger finger off the trigger, or it runs out of ammunition, one of the two. Or it also can be selected to fire semi-automatically, which one pull of the trigger means one shot. But in reality, the shotgun actually can do the job of a submachine gun, can do the job of putting meat on the table or bird hunting. And in an apartment type situation or a mobile home, which more and more of us are living in now with thin walls, a shotgun with bird shot for inside a place like with thinner walls would be probably the best defensive type weapon. It would also, you wouldn't have to worry about injuring something or someone in another part of your home, or at least not worry as much. Remember, we must know where these shots are going at all times, but you wouldn't be as worried about the shot charge leaving your home, going into somebody else's house, something like that, and injuring someone needlessly. Absolutely. So they really are the complete weapon system. Well, let's run a quick experiment here, and I tell you what, friends, it is so pretty today. I just can't tell you. Wish you could all be down here with us. Of course, that's why we're on TV, because everybody can't be here, so we've got to come to your house. Okay, let's run a little experiment here on timed shooting on 3 targets. We have our Colt government model, which is, I certainly shoot about as fast as I shoot anything. And remember, we want to shoot fast, but we darn sure want to shoot accurately, and even at distances that are real close to us. Let's compare our .45 automatic, roughly, to our pump shotgun, and let's just see how long it takes in comparing the two. Because some people think, well, a shotgun's too slow to shoot. Well, let's take a look and just see what it comes down to. Okay, we have our pro timer on from the good folks at Competition Electronics, and they put my hearing protection in a little better. All right, let's run a little experiment here. I'll be in the semi-ready position, a low-ready position. And we'll start our timer. We'll put 3 shots here and hope for good hits, of course. So let's try that right now. Punch the timer, low-ready position. Okay, 1.21 seconds. Hit here, good. All 3 are good hits. So not a bad time. That's how I happen to be shooting today. Well, let's try the same drill with our Mitchell high standard. And again, I am impressed by the slickness of this action, because it's slick but not sloppy. I think it's certainly appears to be very well made. I like that feature. All right, let's try that same drill. We'll load our gun. Again, low ready position. 3 shots, 3 targets. Get ready. Punch our timer. Well, and you won't have much unload our gun. You certainly won't have any trouble identifying where you hit the target. We had 3 good hits, 1.32 seconds, so not enough time difference. What we were 1.21 before, so we're looking at 1/10 of a second. But my goodness, friends, look at the power differential between this 45 and that 12 gauge shotgun. There's up close like that, there's really not much comparison, because the shotgun has so much more power. Most of you, with a little practice, and that's of course what we encourage. We want you out to shoot your guns, to find out how they work, to become comfortable with them. But again, I'm just the average person shooting this thing with a little practice, and you've got a tremendous amount of power that's darn near as quick as a handgun. So I'll tell you what, it really gives us something to think about. In fact, just to illustrate a point, let's take a look at the difference in the hole between the 45, and let's zoom the camera in here and take a look at the difference between the shotgun blast and the 45 ACP. Let's do that right now.
Stay tuned for more of the Shootin' Show after these important messages.
You know, friends, this box of Corbon ammunition and this Wesson 41 Magnum are in fact a perfect match for each other. But it doesn't matter whatever gun you may have, like this SKS or a hunting rifle or a 38 Special or a 9mm, makes no difference, because Corbon is absolutely the best factory ammunition that money can buy, period. And also, friends, when you see a box of Corbon on the shelf or you give them a call, realize that Corbon is helping keep the Shootin' Show on the air. They've been one of our most dedicated sponsors. You cannot find finer people in the entire shooting industry. For information on Corbon ammunition, call them 1-800-626-7266. Again, 1-800-626-7266. Tell them you saw it on the Shootin' Show. Now, friends, this is our 45 ACP hole here, and of course there is your shotgun blast. And I tell you what, there is just no comparison in the two. The shotgun, I'd say, rather has the advantage, wouldn't you? Well, friends, I tell you what, this Mitchell High Standard has performed very well for us. It has functioned perfectly, and which we expect. If a manufacturer loans us, or we pick up a gun somewhere, and it is nicely made and has a good design, we expect them to work. Now then, every type of action regardless, we've managed to make everything malfunction at one time or another, from single shots to single action revolvers to everything semi-automatic. We've made malfunction at one time or another, but these pump shotguns are about as reliable a device as any repeating firearm. And this Mitchell High Standard really appears to be a heck of a nice gun. You know, friends, this is something, one of the things that we want to do on our program. We want to encourage shooting, and what we're in the works for us here, we're talking to some of the folks around the country, because we need to work at places to shoot, and we also need to work at those places that are available to shoot at people being comfortable. You know, if you're an amateur, if you're just buying a gun, if you're new to shooting, you don't have to be embarrassed or afraid somebody's going to make fun or put you down for your lack of skill, because all of us, when we started out shooting whatever kind of gun, we didn't know how the first time. We had to learn. Don't be afraid. Don't let your pride get in the way of going out and learning to shoot whatever kind of gun you have. We had somebody come to the range a while back with a very inexpensive, no longer in production gun. It was an RG 38 Special. And you know what? That's all she had. And she learned to shoot the gun, handle the gun. It worked all right. And she doesn't have to be ashamed, because that's all she had. That very gun could save her life. I don't care if you've got a Weatherby rifle or whatever else. Let's don't put down anybody else for their whatever their equipment may be, as long as it works. So that's what we're mostly concerned about, whether you have an expensive gun or an inexpensive gun or whatever. As long as it works, well, don't be afraid to go down to the range, to the firing range, to that indoor or outdoor, whatever it is, and go out there and take some shots with it and learn how to properly use it. Again, our Mitchell High Standard here gets an excellent grade from us here on the Shootin' Show, and I think this is a gun that certainly bears looking at.
Friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Shotgun News, Post Office Box 669, Hastings, Nebraska, the zip code 68902, their phone number, area 402-463-4589, MasterCard or Visa for subscriptions only. Now call them at 1-800-345-6923. Well, friends, we're certainly enjoying bringing you this week's program. In fact, I'm sitting here with my esteemed colleague. He has his disguise on tonight. He has his Barry Goldwater glasses on.
Well, actually, Johnny, these are the glasses I use when I sit down and work at my computer because they're bifocals and I can see the computer screen and at the same time read what's in front of me. And frankly, when I was in such a hurry to get over here, I just forgot to change glasses.
Well, speaking of forgot, I want to bring up, we watched the 60 Minutes program this past Sunday, and I thought that was pretty entertaining, didn't you?
Oh, I thought it was a darn good program. I wasn't aware that it was going to be on, and you called my home and got it recorded for me. And so about a little after 10 o'clock last night, after the program my wife was recording went off, and I replayed it and got it. And it was a good program. It showed that this crime bill is a bunch of nonsense. This gun ban is a bunch of nonsense. For example, Colt is now making a gun just like the AR-15, sawed-off bayonet
Right.
attachment, no flash hider.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how many people have been killed with flash hiders. And
essentially about the only difference, 10-round magazines rather than a 20 or 30-round magazine.
a 10-round magazine.
Of course, there are probably a million 20 or 30-round magazines out there to fit them.
At least a million, probably 10 million.
Probably 10 million, you're right.
And so the only thing that makes this gun bad as far as the government's concerned is its looks and this pistol grip.
Yeah.
And I expect they're going to take the pistol grip off like the
M18s, yeah.
Russians did with the Mac 90, and therefore there won't be any of the
Bad features.
bad quote bad
Quote,
unquote features.
yes. Well, I'm glad Diane Feinstein got a chance to speak her piece.
She was really miffled off.
At best.
I can't think of a better person to miffle off.
Nicer, more deserving person, absolutely. But it also shows their mentality. The people that want to take these guns away, friends, they're not going to go away. The only way we can deal with it, we have to defeat them. We actually have to beat them. And there's only one way to do that is more of us show up at the polls than them.
Well, it's got to be done, and it's got to be done all the time. It's got to be done on the federal level. It's got to be done on the state level. It's got to be done in your counties and in your cities, because they're trying to do it all over the place. Now, I've gotten some faxes this week. Let me tell you about some of them. GOA, Gun Owners of America, still a great organization, and you ought to join it. You can join it through the Shootin' Show if you're a member of the Shootin' Show Gun Club for only $10, and it's well worth it. You can ask them to put you on that fax network. I gave you the numbers last week. I don't think I have the numbers here this week. Yes, I do too. Their telephone number is 703, that's Virginia, 703-321-8585. Their fax number is the same, first 6 digits, but the last 4 digits are 8408. Now, Gun Owners of America is really on the ball. Let me tell you what they did. They faxed me about the way the Environmental Protection Agency is seeking to ban the use of lead in bullets. I think we talked just a touch about that last week.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important, and when you get in touch with your representatives, your senators, and express your opinions, cut off the funding to the Environmental Protection Agency. That'll stop them. These people are bound and determined to use backdoor gun bans.
Sure.
And so, if you cut off their funding, that'll fix them good. Besides, the Republican Congress wants to cut expenses, wants to cut down on spending. That's the best place I can think of to start with, is the EPA, outside of maybe some of the welfare stuff, welfare nonsense.
I heard today about one of the bureaucracies dealing on the Endangered Species Act had shut down an entire something about fish today, some particular brand of salmon. Well, these people who are some of these endangered species out there, some of them we may not need anyway. And the government literally can go in and shut down a logging industry, a fishing industry, anything they so desire. Doesn't matter. What about the people species? You know, what about people?
Well,
rights?
you know, Johnny, I've always been concerned about that. I've studied a little bit of history, and the truth of the matter is that over 99% of all of the species who have ever lived are no longer extinct, are no longer extant. They simply have been are gone. Only a few of those, a minute few of them, have occurred in our lifetimes or in the lifetimes of our fathers, the carrier pigeon being perhaps the most aggravated example of that. But they've just gone too far overboard on it. And, you know, lead didn't come, it wasn't manufactured. Lead was refined, and lead was already there. Lead is an element.
Well, incidentally, about the lead situation, now there's a drive on, I believe, to remove lead paint from anything in a building or a home under 5 feet. And a good friend of ours said the other day, well, why can't you teach children not to eat paint? Is that so terribly difficult to teach children don't eat the paint, you know?
Well, I don't know what they intend to use as a substitute for all this, but that's one fact. It was on the Environmental Protection Agency, and we were given some suggestions on who to call, who to write, who to fax, and I think I gave that to you last week. And now this week we find the Gun Owners of America and the NRA clashing on something. NRA seems to be happy that the crime bill is not going to contain a provision to repeal the gun ban. Because they've been promised that it'll be taken up as a separate bill, which we already know can't pass the Senate, probably won't pass the Senate, and certainly can't live through a Clinton veto.
Slick Willie's going to veto it. Yeah, veto.
I said last week that we need to attach it to the aid to Mexico. Well, I didn't know that Clinton had bypassed Congress on the aid to Mexico. So it needs to be attached to something. The repeal of the gun ban needs to be attached to something that Clinton wants bad, real bad. And if you attach it to enough things, sooner or later, he's going to want something bad enough to let it go through.
Hey, let me interrupt just a second, talk about the government education and things. Most of you have seen, remember the Clinton $3 bill that's circulating out there?
Oh, yeah.
A friend of ours that we know went into a fast food restaurant recently, and he had one of the helpers there, whoever the cashier, he presented a Clinton $3 bill he bought some coffee, and that finally educated person there gave him 2 ones and some change back.
You gotta be kidding.
No, that actually happened. Now it was a joke. I mean, he apologized. He told the manager he gave the money back. But that just goes to show some of if that's an example of government intrusion into education, or maybe that particular individual thought, "Whoa, this must be the new dollar with Bill Clinton."
More and more often, women are faced with protecting themselves and their homes. But another way of protection is through information. And we at the Shootin' Show believe that the New American Magazine has the best information that you can possibly get.
You can get the New American by calling 1-800-727-TRUE, and those numbers, of course, are 1-800-727-8783. The New American, $22 for a 6-month subscription. It comes twice a month. Friends, you need this magazine if you want to know what's going on. And in times like this, we need both of these. We need our guns, and we darn sure need our information.
All right, but NRA seems to be happy, and I'll grant you that NRA has done a lot of good. I'm not particularly unhappy with NRA, except I wish they'd quit having a tendency to go along.
Well, that's right.
Or to compromise. Now, on the other hand, they have gotten, and it's wide open in the press. So you may just as well know it. They've got a commitment from Speaker Greenwich, Newt Greenwich, that as long as he's Speaker, that no gun ban legislation, no additional gun control legislation is going to either come out of committee or going before the full House. You know, the Speaker has monstrous power. He can control the flow of legislation. And if he controls the flow of legislation and he just cuts off anything like that, then it doesn't make any difference what Dianne Feinstein wants, or it doesn't make any difference what Charlie Shermer wants, or so forth.
Well, but another good point to go with that. Now, maybe it won't on a national level, but the locals are not going to ease up. And, of course, Feinstein and that crew are still going to be around, and they're hoping for a change in elections next time, or a change in seats. These people are going to continue building their platform for gun, not only registration, but confiscation. You know, that's one of the things I believe that Ms. Feinstein said last night. She wanted to confiscate all these things.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, go to the House
said
and
if she could have gotten the votes for it, she would have proposed that, but she didn't have the votes.
But that's what they have in mind.
Well, that's the kind of person that you're dealing with here. They just are, as you put it, Johnny, they're after anything that goes bang.
That's right.
Well, now Gun Owners America wants us to call our congressman, to fax our congressman, and to tell them to attach the repeal of the gun ban to the new crime bill, and to every other bit of legislation that goes through. And even calling for members of the people who have representatives on the Rules Committee to, the Rules Committee governs the way a bill is presented in the House. They can provide a rule that it can't be amended, or they can provide a rule that such and such an amendment is not germane. So these things are there. So the Rules Committee needs to be contacted. Now, there are 4 Democrat members of the Rules Committee. Billson, Democrat of California; Frost, Democrat of Texas; Hall, Democrat of Ohio; and Moakley, Democrat of Maryland. Now, I don't know if we can get any help out of them. I don't know anything about them. But the Republican members of the Rules Committee are Chairman Solomon, and I don't know where he's from, and Ballart,
Baylart, Di Baylart, something
Di
like that.
Baylart is a Republican from Florida.
Dreyer.
Dreyer, D-R-E-I-E-R, is a Republican of California. Goss is a Republican of Florida. Linda is a Republican from Georgia. McInnes is a Republican from Colorado. P-R-Y-E-E, Pry, is a Republican from Ohio. And Quillen is a Republican from Tennessee. Now, and Walhole is a Republican from Utah. Now, all of those people are susceptible to what we're talking about because we helped them. We helped all of them.
That's right. The Republicans really have a better ear toward us now, by and large, don't you?
Well, they always have
Sure.
had a better ear. And so the members of the Rules Committee need to be contacted and urge them to vote for a rule that would allow Steve Stockman, the man that beat Jack Brooks in Texas, that allows Steve Stockman to introduce his amendments to the crime bills to take care of that gun ban. Now, Stockman is a man that's really on our side, and he's working hard. Gun Owners America says that our phone calls are helping us get key supporters in the House. So the more we do, the more we call, the better position we're in. It's important. You see, the elections are over, but the action isn't over.
That's right.
And so, and I hate to appear to always be harping and stuck on the subject of politics, but that's the lifeblood of what happens. And we need to know what's happening, and we need to try to influence the way it's happening.
Well, that's why we're in the mess we're in, is because people haven't taken an interest. The normal, decent people have isolated themselves to some degree from the politics.
Well, it's like that
process.
doctor senator from Tennessee didn't register to vote until about 8 years ago. He said it took him that long to get mad enough. And he's in the Senate, and he's on our side. We've got good people up there now. We may not have enough of a majority. And when Senator Dole announces his candidacy for presidency, that's the first thing that we need to start asking him. What's his position? What's he going to do? Is he going to help us or not? I already know what Senator Graham's going to do.
Right.
Graham has made himself abundantly plain.
Well, I think Graham would really be a good man. I mean, just my opinion.
Well, of course, Johnny, there are other people that are good. For example, Dan Quayle, the former vice president under Bush, has always been a supporter of gun rights, and he defeated one of the worst gun grabbers that the Senate ever had. And the darn NRA endorsed his opponent. I just can't understand it, just like endorsing Brooks. Anyhow, Dan Quayle's a good man. Dole could be if he just get out and work at it. And of course Graham. His personal opinion completely. Personally, he's my choice. I notice that Jack Kemp has taken himself out of the race. I don't know why. Jack Kemp was a good man. But Graham has got the running head start because of the money. He's collected a lot of money. And he's making his announcement sometime this year. And he told me personally, yes, I'm going to run for the presidency. And
Well, a good choice.
and more power to you.
Absolutely.
More power to you.
Speaking of more power to us, this issue of the New American Magazine, and we really want to put in a plug for them, this has a tremendous article on citizen militias. And this is something that is going around. A lot of groups are organizing, and there's a lot of controversy, certainly in the liberal press, about this. But this has, I tell you what, the New American is, if we keep on working with them, I mean, they may turn out to be a real gun magazine for us. This, of course, they cover all kinds of subjects, but this reprints of this current issue will be available, and this is something that I think a lot of us would really like to have. So when you see our New American commercial, be sure and give them a call, because this is one of the finest magazines published anywhere.
And of course, on all your calls, be sure to tell them you saw it on the Shootin' Show.
Please do.
Because advertising dollars are the life of this program. If we don't have the money, we can't be on the air.
Well, you're absolutely right, friends. It helps us every time that you tell one of our sponsors, whenever you buy anything, from Corbin Ammunition to the New American to Tri-Tote to whoever else, our fine sponsors. We really do appreciate it certainly helps us. But we're not a government agency. Like, what's this about National Public Radio and
That's another one. NPR is on an anti-gun kick. They've been anti-gun all along. That's another place the government can save some money. Cut off the funding to NPR. If they can't exist on advertising dollars, then it's not economic. There's no reason why taxpayers need to be supporting that. I don't want my taxpaying dollars going to support either National Public Radio or public television or whatever it is. Let them subsist by meeting the demands of the public and by getting advertising dollars the way this show exists. And
absolutely.
That's a fertile field for House Speaker Greenwich and for the Republican leadership to do something about.
Absolutely. Well said, sir.
Tri-Tote's real easy to use because all you have is a hook on your waist and you have another hook on a strap. Okay, so all you're doing is you're hanging your gun up like you would on a peg gun rack. There is never anything attached to your equipment when you use the Tri-Tote. Okay, you just set the gun with one hook behind the trigger guard and the other hook on the barrel. To use it, you just push in towards your chest, pick the gun up to shoot it. Basically, you got 7 different positions anywhere you want to range the barrel of the gun by just taking it off. It's a piece of Velcro strap onto a Velcro shoulder pad. You just put the gun into it, pick it up and shoot it any way you want. I know a lot of people like to walk around with their gun over their wrist. In this position, tucked up under your arm, it's real comfortable, except it breaks your wrist. set the gun with the hook in front of the trigger guard, and you got the same position except your hands free always. And what you want to do is you can take your trigger finger right at the trigger guard, pick the gun right up off the pod, and then you got it ready to shoot. Okay? The other position that you have is when you set the butt of the gun right on the hook on the side, and you can just hold your gun for field shooting in this manner, or you can just rest it back on your shoulder, shrug your shoulder, hit the gun, catch it, and the gun comes up. It's that simple to use. A lot of people like to go out riding on their four-wheeler and their ATV or climb into their deer stand or drag their deer. You got a securing strap that just peels back. All you do is set it on the barrel of the gun, wrap the barrel up, and you have a little securing loop down here on the pod. Okay? You take that and you secure that right over the hook of the gun, so you're securing the top and the bottom. You can ride your four-wheeler, you can climb your tree stand in this manner. If you'd like to pull out your deer, you can open your waist belt up, drop your right hand down through your straps, bring your left hand back up through it. The gun immediately goes on your back. Buckle it up, take away any of that slack. You don't want that. Just readjust it. Pull it up tight on your back, and that's the most secure back carry you'll ever have. You can drag your deer out any way you want to drag your deer out. Climb your hands, use your binoculars. You're always hands-free with the tri-tote.
Now then, friends, for information or to order one of the all-season tri-totes, call them at 1-800-231-1443. MasterCard or Visa, $38.50 plus $6.50 shipping and handling. This is a special price for our Shootin' Show audience, so please identify to them that it is, you did see it on the Shootin' Show. This is an excellent piece of equipment a lot of us would like to have, friends. 1-800-231-1443.
You know, friends, we enjoy shooting all types of different firearms. Let me tell you what, we always enjoy shooting a classic. Well, this classic is, today we're looking at the Smith & Wesson Model 19 in .357 Magnum. And our good friend Bill Jordan actually specified the different measurements, the design of this particular gun. You know, the first .357 Magnums made by Smith & Wesson were very large. They were heavy in-frame revolvers. Well, you know, a police officer, they carry their guns a whole lot more than they shoot them. And Bill Jordan, who was, of course, today is a very famous outdoor writer, a good friend of ours, one of the most interesting people any of us could ever meet. But he was a Border Patrol agent for many years, has done all sorts of shooting exhibitions, and not many people who've ever lived know as much about handguns or guns in general as the great Bill Jordan. And this was his idea, and I believe he introduced this gun on national television back in the mid-50s, if I remember correctly. And I vaguely remember seeing that particular program he was on. But this was supposed to be a great advantage, a tremendous gun for the peace officer, because it gave the police officer, or in fact, for that matter, the decent citizen who wanted to have a higher powered handgun, it gave them the power of the larger guns on a lighter 38 special size frame. Now, Smith & Wesson had to do several things. One, they had to heat treat their steel differently, but tell you what, after World War II in the early 50s, so much was learned about metalworking during World War II. And one of the neat things to come along in handgunning history is the great Model 19.
Don't go away. The Shootin' Show will be right back after these very important messages.
Friends, you can communicate with the Shootin' Show on CompuServe now. Our number is 735-42-3024. Again, 735-42-3024. And to join our Shootin' Show Gun Club, call us at 1-800-895-7916. We take Visa, MasterCard, check, money order, whatever you got. Join today, friends. We need to reach as many people as we can.
Hello, friends. I'm out here practicing for one of the most fun hunting sports that you can imagine. You can use a variety of action types. You have access to year-round hunting, some cases no limits, and you get to use a variety of guns. Well, you know what I'm talking about is a sport of varmint hunting. And we need to introduce you folks to varmint hunting. A lot of us have been doing it for years and didn't know what to call it, but we especially need to introduce you to the Varmint Hunter magazine.
You know, friends, varmint hunting is one of the fastest growing shooting sports in the world. In fact, the Varmint Hunters Association, they have members in all 50 states and 19 foreign countries. Now, their magazine focuses on varmint hunting and super accurate reloading and shooting techniques. Plus, there's a lot of humor, a lot of interesting cartoons and humorous articles in the magazine. Incidentally, the magazine is large, it's very high quality, and something I think you're really going to enjoy reading, and it's published quarterly. It's only $24 for an associate membership in the Varmint Hunters Association. And look, for information, now you ought to do this. If you're a dedicated shooter, this is something I think you're really going to enjoy. For information on the Varmint Hunter magazine and the Varmint Hunters Association, call them at 1-800-528-4868. Again, 1-800-528-4868. Be sure and tell them you saw it on the Shooting Show.
Now, friends, one of the innovations, the older types, such as Model 10, Smith & Wesson, and 38 Special, had the same size cylinder, and it had to, of course, be lengthened somewhat and also made of a different heat treat as far as steel goes. This is your standard 6-shot Smith & Wesson revolver, and this actual design of the mechanism dates from about 1899 or 1900, and it is proven beyond a doubt as far as the reliability and function of this particular design. It has excellent adjustable sights, and these guns will typically shoot into 1.5 to 2.5 inches at 25 yards. The beauty part is you can carry them all day. They don't weigh you down, but you still have the full-size cartridge capability of the .357 Magnum. Now you can see, and yes, we know this gun's unloaded. This gun has the old-style target grip, and we've pretty much gotten away from that now. We've gone to rubber grips and different things because I don't know whose hand that the target grips really do fit. I'm not sure, but we've pretty much gotten away with that, but this is still being offered, and you can see the barrel is used to be considered a heavy barrel. It's not in comparison now to, say, the 686 series or the L-frame series, but it still was quite a bit heavier than the 38 Special barrel. Now, the beauty part is these guns are so smooth, typically, and such very nice carryable packages. Now let's compare. This is called a K-frame. Here's your N frame, which the 357s were first offered on, and you can see there's quite a bit of difference. The N frame is quite a bit larger, say, than the K frame. Now, the advantage to the N frame here is that you did have more metal, you had more mass to soak up recoil, and for ultimate power type loads, well, the N frame is probably better. But the K frame here, again, getting back to its original purpose, this gun was to be practiced with, say, with the 38 Special pressure loads. An officer could learn to shoot the gun, become competent with it, and then for duty or for a self-defense role, then you could put in the quite a bit hotter, .357 Magnum ammunition. Now, honestly, when interest in handgunning began to increase a few years ago, it was found that the standard K-frames would not stand the unlimited pounding of full charge .357 Magnum ammunition. Remember, this was an original 38 Special type design. This gun was designed around 38 Special cartridge, but with any sort of reasonable use. Now, honestly, when you go out as far as a carry gun or self-defense, still the Model 19 is about as good as it gets, because we're not going to shoot this gun all day with full-powered ammunition because it's just not as much fun. we're going to typically shoot it with downloaded somewhat or 38 special ammunition, and then for serious we'll keep 357s in it. And no, they won't blow up, but they do wear prematurely if you use the heaviest hand loads in them. The timing will suffer somewhat under a continuous barrage of, say, a couple of 3,000 rounds of full charge 357 ammunition. That's just not what the guns were going to be designed for. Of course, since this gun came along, again, we've had a sort of a revolution in grips, and of course now we're seeing hoe grips from the factory and other different types of grips. We're seeing heavier barrels than this, such as on our Wesson here, a heavier barrel to dampen recoil. But like I said, still, with the original intent of what this gun was designed for, there probably is still nothing better when you take in all the good qualities that the Model 19 has. Friends, the Model 19 certainly deserves to be called a classic because it really is in every sense of the world, in the word. Now, they're every bit as useful and functional as when they first came out. Again, if you're going to do some silhouette shooting or revolver type competition with shooting a lot of heavier loads, well, the Smith & Wesson L-frame would probably be a better choice. But as far as a gun to carry and shoot quickly and accurately, honestly, the Model 19 is still a very, very fine choice. And this is another thing that Bill Jordan was right about. This is the famous Thunder 5 revolver shooting the .45 Colt cartridge, also the .410 shotgun shell. It's also available in .45-70 and includes some caliber inserts that are optional. And let's get that snake. For information on the Thunder 5, call 1-800-654-0797. Again, that's 1-800-654-0797.
We as Americans have the right to choose or pursue the best of anything. But when it comes to ammunition, for a handgun or rifle or even some specialty calibers, Corbon is the best.
Hi, Shootin' Show fans. This is J.D. Jones. We've got a little unusual revolver here this morning. This is a replica made in Italy by Uberti & Company and imported by Navy Arms of the Smith & Wesson Schofield single-action break-top revolver. Now, this is a very, very early gun. These guns were introduced a little over a year ago at the SHOT Show, and they're just now becoming available. We've got one of the first ones to shoot, and we've been shooting it. You can see it's dirty. It's an unusual gun and an unusual design in many respects. We're going to show you a little bit about it. Let's take a look at the sights first. Obviously, this is the front sight. It's just a simple half moon on a rib. Now, the rib has a groove in it. What for? But the purpose of it is, I really couldn't tell you. The rear sight is best illustrated with the hammer back. The gun is unloaded. Now, you'll notice you have a narrow front sight and a big wide U-shaped notch as a rear. Now, in the bottom of that notch is a very, very small notch. Now, I'm not sure whether this gun was intended to be shot with the top of the front sight, even with the top of the rear sight, as is done with most modern firearms, or whether you're supposed to put the top of that notch in the bottom of that notch and then file the front sight down to get your point of impact right. I'm just not sure about that, but I can tell you this: at 50 yards with 255 grain factory ammunition, if you hold the top of the front sight even with the top of the rear sight, she shoots just fine. Now, the problem with that is, of course, that you have a big wide gap here. It's very difficult to hold for windage to center the front sight, and because of that rounded front sight and a lot of space on both sides of it, it's quite difficult to hold elevation also. Now, I have a lot better time holding windage than I do elevation. My shots at 50 yards generally with Winchester and Black Hills factory ammo are running about 2.5 inches wide and about 4 to 6 inches high, which for this type of gun and shooting with just sort of a makeshift rest, I don't think is too bad. You'll notice the hammer, the latch, rear sight, the hardened locking pieces, the trigger guard, and the trigger are all very tastefully case hardened. The coloring is good. It's a great combination with a highly polished blue gun. Now also notice the hammer on this gun. The firing pin is fixed in the hammer, as was common practice back in the old days. After all, this gun was invented in 1877. Probably invented before that, but that's when it was produced the first time. Now to break it open, you lower the hammer, or bring it back, whatever the case, to half cock, or safety notch. Pull this back, and just break it downward. As it goes down, the extractor lifts the empty cases, so you can either pick them out or dump them out. If you let it do that, you'll have situations occur where the cartridge case goes under the rim, the ejector goes down on top of it, and you got a real mess trying to get it apart. Now that's tripped by this little lever down here. When we close her all the way up, you can see that lever bends back out and trips it. Let's latch it back up, show you again. Pull it back, break it open, bring it up to there, shake them out, or just hold it upside down. Then you go the rest of the way, it unlatches. The extractor is not long enough to pull the cartridges completely out of the chamber. The gun's pretty lightweight, but the .45 Colt has very little recoil. It's a very comfortable gun to shoot. You notice they took the extra pains to round off the butt of the grip so it doesn't dig into your hand and recoil. Because of the shape of the grip.
Friends, we run out of time on this week's program for this feature, and we'll come back to it on our next program. Incidentally, if you would like to advertise on the Shootin' Show, you can call us at 1-800-SAVE-YOU-GUN. That's 1-800-728-8486. Our staff will be very happy to talk to you. Well, friends, it's happened again. We've run out of time for today's program. From Kurt, the judge, myself, we want to thank everyone for being with us for today's program, and we look forward to seeing you on the next Shootin' Show.